if those new sorts of relationships developed, do we think that Wellington would be prepared to enter into that new sort of relationship with Auckland? Because as you said earlier, Nikki, politicians giving up power is one of the sort of snowball in hell sort of scenarios.
Well, I think make a couple of comments. One of the reasons I support the Supercity is because I don't feel that Auckland has had the level of voice that it's needed at a central government level, and so I think politicians within central government will be forced to take notice, actually, because previously when things haven't happened, the pushback has been, well, we've had 6 different mayors' views and we don't actually know what Auckland wants. Well, actually, now, if the Mayor of Auckland and the councillors and the local boards say this is what we want, then it's going to be there's nowhere for central government to actually hide. The second point, though, that I think I would make, I think is very perceptive from Peter, and that is that this process, you know, I have had 2 schools of people come to my office. Some have said, how could Parliament spend 5 years trying to work this out? Actually, why didn't you do it quicker? Because of 5, you know, some people see it's been a very long process. But I think the point is well made, which is the Auckland governance legislative process has been the same process that we go and do for other pieces of legislation. And often it is a small group of people that actually get involved in that process. And so it's, in my view, it's a bit of a chicken and egg, because I think there are a lot of people that I've met that they've felt they've been let down by the political system, so they don't want to get involved. And until we have a system that they feel more comfortable with, but I think that is a live debate around how we can better engage with our citizens, both at a central and local government level. I think it's very perceptive.
Now, let me just pick up on council-controlled organisations. When the outline for them first came out, it was very unclear as to whether the council itself would have enough resources and skills within the council to be able to deliver good strategy to the CCOs to deliver on, and then also that the council would have sufficient skills to run good oversight over those council-controlled organisations. So, how do we think, what sort of progress do we think has been made, first of all, in making the case that a CCO is the right structure to deliver a lot of these services in Auckland, and secondly, that the way that the Select Committee has amended the 3rd bill, that the council now has a much better chance of presenting good strategies to the CCOs and then making sure they deliver. Who wants to start on any of that? Shane.
I think in this discussion on CCOs we should cut to the chase. In the late 80s there was a view that prevailed in New Zealand that we needed to strip civil servants and politics out of the running of enterprises. And really I think Auckland is now enduring a fresh version of what we did as New Zealanders on SOEs. And it's premised on an assumption which I think is the jury's well and truly still out. The best way to deliver outcomes is to have people who are as much as possible freed from the interference of community activists, neighbourhood ratepayer associations and other proxies for the community, and give them tightly defined corporate purposes. And that's why I've ended up calling much of the Supercity Gotham City. I genuinely believe that no one has fully got their head around how you control these organisations. And these organisations, and we had a bad experience of that in my view when Bulger set up Cheese in the 90s. If communities feel that these organisations have run amok and are answerable only to themselves and to potentially weak or distracted politicians, you will have Gotham City. And the people who run the CCOs will have a mandate to just make sure the trains run on time and get on with whatever the corporate purpose. And it's one of the reasons why I did think that a very strong and good networker as a mayor was one counterbalancing force against these CCOs. But I actually see them as being incredibly powerful. And I see them, if we don't actually have politicians who know how to manage them, being like some of the SOEs who, in my experience, live in their own world.
Thanks. Nikki.
Make a couple of points. One of the, I'll give you an example of an issue that maybe possibly some of the local body politicians know about that was really hard for me as a local MP was the Waiheke waste issue. That I actually disagreed with John Banks over, because I saw a whole lot of officials within the council, in my view, giving what I saw was pretty bad advice actually. So one thing that came very strongly through the select committee process, and Peter, you made this point, is that there are situations within some councils whereby some of those people that are working in them are largely left unchecked. So I guess the point that I'd make is that there is an argument which says the CCOs could be more accountable, and I put a caveat on this, than some of those officials, because if we get the right transparency and accountability processes in place. Now, Parliament had a decision as to whether we did nothing there or whether we put something within legislation. And what I'm very interested in is what the mayoral candidates are actually going to say about those accountability processes, because I agree with Shane, they could have the potential to have extraordinary power. I think they also have the potential to be a hell of a lot more transparent, actually, than some of the previous situations we've had. But the mayoral candidates need to outline very clearly whether some of those CCOs are going to come on, for instance, say 4 times a year, and I sort of see them like a select committee process where they are quizzed as to exactly what they're doing and exactly how they're going to deliver. The second point that I'd make as well is, again, it comes back to the spatial plan is crucial, and also the local board plans, where the communities come together and say what their preferences are, because these CCOs, and that was a positive change made to the legislation, are now required to adhere to those. So I think that, as I say, if the mayoral candidates are clear and have clear accountability and transparency processes, if the plans work properly and the spatial plan is as significant as I think it could be, then I see them more as being directed by those politicians. But I do think the mayoral candidates need to be clear about what those accountability processes are.